How we doing, boys and girls? Manthieus here. This isn't my normal format of video, but I wanted to talk a little bit, considering we are now in the week before patch 9.2 goes live. We are 7 days away from the patch launching, and I've been holding off talking about this one thing for a long time, and I still can't work it out. So I wanted to talk to you for a little bit today, try and discuss my thoughts on this, and more importantly, see what your thoughts are on it. I'm strongly struggling with the fact that I am only one person, and this item is proving to be incredibly rare, so I need to throw this out to the community a little bit to try and get some insight on this. What are we talking about, though? The Progenitor Essentia. I've kind of named it the Pog Essence because it's just too much of a tongue twister to say. This is, for those unaware, is going to be basically Corthite Crystal 2.0. It's going to be used by legendary crafters, so the people who are making those base items, and it's the ticket for them to be able to make the new Vestige, which is coming in patch 9.2. But it is also used not just by legendary crafters this time. It's going to be used by, if we take a little bit look of what Wowhead has to say about this, it's actually a reagent for multiple stuff. It's a reagent for not only the new Vestiges for your blacksmiths, leatherworkers, whatever. It's also used in the Crafter's Mark gear, the new Crafter's Mark, the first ones, which is going to be your top tier. Videos on this coming soon. It's going to be your top tier Crafter's Mark for the expansion now. It's going to create 262 item level bits of gear. But you can see, unlike Corthite crystals were relatively understood as just being a component of crafting legendaries. These things now have two uses. You can see the Vestiges need 2 of them. The Crafter's Mark needs 1 of them. So this throws another variable into the equation. And what I've basically been trying to do, and the crux of this discussion today, is how the hell do we value these and sort of plan ahead for them, and what do we suspect the price is going to be? If any of you remember in patch 9.1 PTR, before Corthia went live and we had full access to it, there was lots of speculations about the value of the Corthite crystal. A lot of it coming from yours truly, based upon what we'd seen on the PTR. And then very last minute, Blizzard made a huge significant change, which threw, all of the calculations out the window. And I kind of feel that we might see the same again this time. Like I said, we're at the time of recording this anyway. This is probably not a video that I expect people to watch in the future. This is a flash in the pan kind of video. As it stands at the moment, we're a week away from patch 9.2 going live, and obviously lots of people are interested about this. I'm trying to put just some, some constructive thought to it, and I'm struggling. And so, with understanding what these are used for, you have to then start looking at, well, how easily can you get them? And this is proving to be my biggest problem, because they seem to be, and they have the illusion that they are incredibly rare. But this is where we need to start thinking in a little bit of detail. Well, how does this effect matter when you scale it up? Because, of course, I'm one person. If I go on the PTR and I test, I could run around for what feels like a couple of hours on the PTR trying to hunt these things down, and I could still come across none of them. Yet, even if I only get 1 in an hour or 2 in an hour or something like that, say, for example, when there's 10,000 players on a server, that still means that there's a huge supply of them. Is that supply going to be enough? I don't know. So I wanted to do some comparison. I first thought that the sensible thing to do would be to look at it in comparison to the Corthite crystal, to try and ultimately answer the question. Now, I know I'm 5 minutes into the video already and I've barely got to the point, but I'm desperately trying to work out, well, are these Progenitor Essentia, are they going to be 100 gold each, or are they going to be 10k each? What sort of price should we be as legendary crafters thinking about paying for these? So to do the comparison, I've opened 2 notepads. Yeah, we've gone double notepad mode today. I've opened 2 notepads so we can get a bit of a side-by-side comparison on the go. Corthite crystals, what did we know about Quarthite crystals? Well, let's start with how many of them do you get? How easy is it to acquire these materials? You got 5 of them from your Shaping Fate quest. If you were lucky, this was on a daily, and it was a bit of a chance all the same. You might get the bounty daily in Korthia that gave you 2 or 3 of them. Plus, they were, in theory at least, farmable from the treasures out in Korthia. There was about a 1% drop rate from the treasure in the bone piles, giving you, in theory at least, a way to farm them, although even the treasures themselves were kind of limited. So the Korthite crystals was limited in a fashion to which they were super duper hard to truly farm for. There was no unlimited farming method for Korthite crystals. Sure, you could get a blast of them on a character quite quickly. It wasn't uncommon to get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them quite quickly. But then once you got those first 10 on any given character, you basically had to wait until the game reset the next week before you could get those again. So it wasn't, it kind of, there was a limiting factor to how many of them existed. So what happened with the prices? We started off seeing prices at like 2 to 3k at the beginning of the patch, because people went into the patch with the expectation that these things were going to be pretty rare. Blizzard had just literally days before the patch went live buffed the absolute crap out of the amount of them that you needed. And even that wasn't enough. Blizzard had to step in later on during the patch and actually buff the acquisition of these Korthite crystals to help with their pricing. And we're now towards the end of the 9.1 patch, and prices seem to have stabilized somewhere between 500 to 1,000 gold a piece, depending on your realm. Let's look at Pog Essence then, the Progenitor Essentia. Do we see any similar patterns here to try and work out just how much are these going to be valued at? There appears to be, at least from limited testing so far, about a 1% drop chance for these Progenitor Essentias from cipher-bound chests. These are the equivalent of the bone piles and regular treasures in Korthia, but in Zereth Mortis. So this is still somewhat limited because there's only so many treasures you can pick up in a day. Obviously, it does reset daily, though. There are one-time treasures in Zereth Mortis, but there's also a lot of just treasures that you can pick up on your travels on a daily. Plus, this time you can also get these Pog Essences from Herb and Node Ore. So this in theory has become a truly unlimited farm for these Progenitor Essentias, and I think this is going to have a dramatic difference. Obviously, at this point, we don't know what the pricing is going to be, and that's what we're trying to work out. But what we do know is how many of them we need. We can work that out from the Wowhead post. We need 2 of them for a legendary, 1 of them for a crafter's marks, which, in comparison to needing 40 Korthite crystals, is a mere fraction of what we ever needed. So ultimately what I feel is going to happen here, and I can only really put clarification to this with more data, and this is where I hope you guys can come in. As it stands, I would imagine that average Joe that just plays Zereth Mortis and plays 9.2 is very rarely going to see these. Very rarely is average Joe going to come across a Progenitor Essentia. Far more rare than General Joe came across Korthite crystals. In 9.1, you could have no interest whatsoever in Korthite crystals, yet still get them because they were just part of what you were doing anyway. There was a daily quest that would give you a couple. Your Shaping Fate, meta quest that everybody was doing would give you 5 of the damn things. You would stumble across these for no real reason, even if you had no interest in them. Yet the Pog Essences, it appears that you are going to have to, at least in some way, go out of your way to get access to them. Sure, General Joe might accidentally find one from a treasure, but generally speaking, I think you're either going to have to deliberately run alts through Zereth Mortis to farm these chests on as many characters as possible. But let's say, for example, there's 20, 30 chests you can get a day per character. You're still not even guaranteed to get one on those characters, though, so it's probably not too lucrative for you to be doing. But herbalists and miners are going to be the ones that are going to come across these on a regular basis. But the fact that it's 100% truly farmable means that there will be players out there that will do that. And annoyingly such, this pushes the Pog essence very heavily into the pockets of bots. And this is probably where I should start wrapping things up into some sort of conclusion here, is that I think these Progenitor Essentias, if they end up being as limited as they are in acquisition from the general player base, if you can only primarily pick them up by herbing and mining, the market's going to be really, really weird for these. Initially, they're going to start off being super duper mega expensive, and I'm talking like ridiculous level expensive. It would not surprise me to see these at 5 to 10k a piece in the first couple of weeks, because not only are the legendary crafters going to want to buy a bunch of these, the crafters mark dudes, once they hit honored and get their patterns, are going to want a bunch of these as well. And the limited nature of how many of them you can get, I think, is going to be a problem. Now, I know this video has not been overly constructed. I've not really put too many notes together or really planned this. I just really want to try and get a gauge from you guys in the community, more so than anything, of have you been on the PTR and have you been coming across these, and what's your success rate with getting them? Now, I know there's a little buff you can get for these if we jump into the game very quickly. You can go to the Echo Gyros, which are some NPCs that are in Zereth Mortis, and these guys will actually give you a buff. If I go over here quickly and speak to one, there's a little dude that's hidden here. I've worked out where he lives. This dude will, when you speak to him, you need your Poco Pock out. When you speak to this dude, he'll give you a buff, which in theory, and I say put emphasis on in theory, this is meant to give you a buff to the amount of Progenitor Essentias you get when gathering and looting treasures. But for all my testing on the PTR, which, like I said, I am only one person, I've only dedicated a few hours to actually doing some herbing and mining out in Zereth Mortis. I've still, in all my testing in Zereth Mortis, only ever come across 2 Progenitor Essentia in probably what is about 5 hours. That gives you an indication. And that's with me having the buff, being on a druid, and having flying. Yeah, this is weird. It's going to mean that the value of these things, I think, initially may be super high. But I also think purely by the fact that they are farmable, and they, unfortunately, are going to be so valuable at the beginning, it's going to attract a lot of people to start botting, herbing, and mining. Now, obviously, I wish that Blizzard would have a good leash on the bots, but if history is to repeat itself, like it very frequently does, the start of a new patch will probably come with an influx of bots, and they are going to heavily go after these Progenitor Essentias. I mean, I don't really know what to say with these things. I still, with all of my experience in the game and testing of the PTR, could not accurately tell you whether these items are going to be 10,000 gold or 100 gold after a couple of weeks. It's going to be a very interesting market, and like I said, I hope you can leave me some comments, some feedback down below, either on this YouTube video or, you know, get a discussion on the go in the Discord channel. The links for that is in the description as well. But have you found many of these? Have you found a optimal way to acquire them? Yeah. That's really it for today, boys and girls. Like I said, this wasn't the video I was planning to do today. I was actually working on another video, and there was a section in that video where I talk about these, and I could not make my mind up on whether these are going to be expensive or super cheap. So yeah, I'll leave it there for today. I know this has not been a very organised video. I apologise. We'll get back to some actual proper content soon. But yeah, thoughts, leave them down below. I'll see you all next time. Peace.